He was as kind as you could be. I didn't know what to say. He hugged me and he goes, I suppose you and I are going to go through this together, he said. And I thought, well, not as much as you are.
Well, Halyna Hutchins' widow, Matthew, doesn't have as much sympathy for Alec anymore after he watched Alec's interview with ABC News in December.
Watching him, I just felt so angry.
In a preview of an interview that will air on the Today Show tomorrow, Matthew says he wasn't happy watching Alec detail to millions how his wife died on set due to a real bullet in a prop gun.
Just so angry to see him talk about her death so publicly and then to not accept any responsibility after having just described killing her.
She and I had this thing in common where we both thought it was empty, and it wasn't. And that's not her responsibility, that's not my responsibility. Whose responsibility is remains to be seen.
Among Alec's critics after the accidental shooting was George Clooney, who said he always checks a gun himself before filming a scene.
Some who say you're never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set, no matter what.
Unless the person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun for her camera angle. That's exactly what happened.
The idea that the person holding the gun, causing it to discharge, is not responsible is absurd to me.
Look, I can't imagine the grief that Matthew is going through and that Alec is going through too. I mean, Alec is going through grief too. I'm not saying they're equal grief, I'm just saying they're both going through grief. First off, I'm very shocked that it seems as though Alec didn't contact Matthew before he did that interview with ABC News. That tells me that Alec is trying to save his own butt and isn't worried about Matthew's feelings, that Alec is trying to save his career. I know you guys are going to say, how dare you assume that Alec didn't talk to Matthew. If Matthew is saying now that I couldn't believe I was so angry watching Alec, detail how my wife died, he probably didn't tell Matthew beforehand, because if Alec had called Matthew up and said, hey, I'm going to do this interview with ABC News, Matthew would have said, what's this interview going to be about? What are you going to do in this? Oh, I want to say, detail how it happened. And Matthew would say, no, I don't want you to do that. So that tells me that Alec didn't do that. That's why I'm coming to that conclusion, okay? Now, this is a tough situation. The criminal investigation, I don't think it's going to be a hard criminal investigation to figure out, because you need to figure out who put that bullet in that gun, who handled those guns. You got to trace it where that bullet came from. I thought of my own circumstance, and obviously not life and death circumstance at all, but sometimes I would have a producer give me questions for someone I'm going to interview. Didn't happen very often. I usually just did that stuff on my own, but sometimes it would happen. But I would still always do my own research. I would never rely on a producer's research. Not that I didn't trust them, not that I didn't think they were professional. They were awesome. But at the end of the day, it's me talking to that person, having that interaction. And so if I say some wrong information, then it's on me. It's ultimately on me. It doesn't matter. I can't say, a producer gave me the information. No, it's ultimately on me. So I want to make sure I'm completely comfortable in knowing all the little details. Say an album name or a movie name or their spouse's name or their kid's name. I want to double check those details myself. And it only happened once. I did an interview where I did not have time to research an artist beforehand. And so I just went with the producer's questions. And one of the questions was saying, oh, your new album is called this. And the person said, my new album is called that. We haven't even announced the album title. That was the only time I went ahead with producer's questions, and I got burned on it. And they weren't upset. It was very minor. I don't even remember who the artist was, to be honest with you. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, with these circumstances, it's ultimately on me. I'm having that interaction. So yeah, it is someone else's job to handle the guns. But at the end of the day, I'm the one holding that gun. So I would definitely make sure I check that gun to make sure. It's not that I don't trust the people that are supposed to do that, but it's ultimately me holding that gun. So I want to make sure it's empty. And I don't get this thing of like, you never point a gun at someone on set. There's movies all the time where guns are pointed at other actors. That doesn't make any sense to me. Alec probably has done a lot of movies where he's, handled the gun, and he's gotten comfortable that he can trust I don't know what team it is, but he can trust those people to do their jobs. But I would still check the gun. So he's gotten comfortable not doing that. Do I think that means that Alec is criminally responsible? No, because at the end of the day, it's not his job to handle that. Just like any stunt, any explosion that happens on set, it's not up to the actor to make sure that goes up and double check everything that's going to go okay. But I mean, it's ultimately down to the people that do the stunts and handle the guns. It's ultimately their responsibility. So that's the person who is criminally responsible. I don't think Alec is criminally responsible for that gun going off and killing Halyna. But he's going to have to live that guilt with the rest of his life. So I've said a lot. But yeah, what are your thoughts?